Hey, welcome back to Two Super Guys Trade Stocks. I'm Dylan.
And I'm Vinny, and holy crap for us Alibaba bag holders. This was a massive week. I once again did something stupid. I'm going to talk about it at the end of the video. And we actually have a subscriber breakdown. We're going to talk about the news related to Alibaba stock, and we'll get to it right now. All right.
Two Super Guys Trade Stocks.
So it's pretty interesting. It took me a minute to kind of find what happened this week and why Alibaba stock moves so much. When you look at their specific information related to them, there wasn't really much out there online. Now the stock is up 7.5% in a matter of 5 days, but if you notice, most of that has come in the last couple of days here, right? So it was a pretty dramatic shift. I'm like, what the hell is going on? This seems like a news-driven event rather than just like kind of simple upward progression of a stock. However, like I said, it wasn't Alibaba specific, so I had to really look at Chinese macro to kind of figure it out what's going on. Don't forget what the context of where we're coming from here. So this is like barely a blip on their overall, stock price history. We're going back as far as their IPO. They're still down 13% all time, which is pretty wild to think about, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of wish I would have bought more at 68 now. I only bought 20 shares. Damn it.
You never know, you might get another opportunity here, right?
That's true.
But this is actually the headline that was moving things. So there's a couple of analysts that talked about the Chinese macro environment, particularly related to real estate. Now, Dylan and I have done videos on this in the past and how, in particular, real estate is so much more important to the Chinese economy because something like 70% of household wealth for the Chinese is tied up in real estate, whereas it's only about 30% in the US. It's a much more real estate dependent economy. And as you know, with kind of the three red lines policy, the whole housing sector has faced a lot of headwinds over the last couple of years. Now it looks like the Chinese government may be stepping in to buoy the housing market a little bit. And that's what was really driving this, is that the housing market kind of issues and headwinds may be getting a little bit more assistance from the Chinese government.
So I don't know if I like that as much because I text you during the day as like I was crazy busy with patients, but I figured JD had done something because JD was up significantly more, and then it actually wasn't JD either. So
Mm-mm.
even though there's a positive sentiment among Chinese stocks, BABA did not move as well as other Chinese stocks.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting that that tends to be their role, if you will, a little bit in the market dynamics. Some of the companies related to housing, I think, were as high as like 15 to 17% gains in like a
Well,
day when this was announced.
that makes sense for me.
So this is the underlying argument here is, so this is a quick positive policy change in our view, and we think that the policy banks should provide funds to local governments to achieve inventory reduction goals, all right, as was successfully done in 2014 to 2019. So he's referring to a strategy that provides the funds for local governments and their platforms to purchase unsold units from the developers and use and deploy them as social housing. So all these vacant properties would be being bought by the local Chinese governments and then put out as social housing available for the citizens of the area. So it would be like almost a direct injection of cash into these, kind of housing manufacturers, these real estate developers, by the local Chinese governments, as their conduit. So something like that, where you have now the government coming in as a buyer, can certainly move the needle, right? It's a pretty
Yeah,
big hammer.
I'm actually kind of surprised it moved the needle that much, to be
So
honest.
it hasn't yet, but it's something that this is direct cash by being deployed by the government if this does happen. So when something like that does indeed occur, it's not having to drift down through multiple levels of the economy. This is directly like the developer receiving cash like in hand from the local governments as
Right.
they purchase their assets. This is kind of like a, when we look at what the US and the Federal Reserve did during, the whole pandemic, this was when, the Federal Reserve stepped in the market and started buying assets directly, right? This is quantitative easing directly, both them actually buying housing.
You know what's funny is the money that the government is using to buy from housing is probably from BABA because they've given them billions of dollars.
Because I took it away. So I don't think I included the snippet here, but there was one thing that talked about how it would be about 2.1 trillion potentially that would need to be like soaked up here.
Oh
Which,
boy.
when you look at the context of the Chinese GDP, which is like what, 15 trillion a year, something in that ballpark. It's something that is large, but not entirely undoable for them.
18
So
trillion.
18 trillion, I was say. The US is like 25, 28. This is an image I put here as a kind of an analogy for what can happen sometimes with these stocks that are
That's right.
been undervalued for a while here, right? Do you ever try to hold a balloon underwater?
Yeah, it does not work well.
No, it doesn't, right? It tends to rise to the surface very, very quickly and violently, right? So that's the kind of issue you may run into if you are doing what I've been doing, which is that covered call strategy, right?
Mm,
Um, and when you look at the valuations of Alibaba, to me, it's still clearly undervalued. I took this slide from our most recent presentation here in Alibaba. This 24% free cash flow yield, when the U.S. Treasury market's yielding a 4.5% for a 10-year Treasury note. This is a big free cash flow yield in comparison. So not that you're really expecting to get anywhere close to that. There's always going to be a China discount, probably, at least in my thought process here. But this is a stock that is easily half the value it deserves based upon the free cash flow yield method, right?
agreed.
So when we see companies that get deeply depressed in their valuations compared to where they belong, their natural valuation, they tend to have very violent upswings here. And this is one of the more famous examples we saw of this recently, right? This is even after this pullback that they had with their most recent earnings, but a 400% gain basically from the low to current market value.
For a giant company too, which is wild. Not a small company, a giant.
Yeah.
I think it's top five in total. No, maybe top
Yeah.
seven.
I can't remember exactly where they are ranked right now. I want to say their market cap got nothing like 400 billion, somewhere in this ballpark. So meaning they'd be like the 1.5, 1.6 trillion dollar range
Yeah,
right now. That's about what I remember, if it's correct. Now, as far as the speed of this, that can really run into an issue when you're doing like a covered call strategy, which is what I like to trade. So that run into some issues. The other thing we have here on the horizon is Alibaba this week did announce a date for the next earnings report, and it's just 2 weeks from now. So not even May 14th. Before market open, they're one of those weird ones. So the conference call is even over before the market opens. It's a Chinese company.
right.
Follow the traditional American calendar there. The thing that is really worrying me is it looked like for a while here, Alibaba was trading in this little channel. And I want to get your opinion as more the chart kind of analysis guy. What do you think? When will we know that we've had a confirmed breakout of this channel that Alibaba stock was trading in?
Well, the short answer is it's China. We have no idea ever. However, so this is a lot of volume that happened 2 days ago. Can you see the
Mm-hmm.
green? Right, cool.
Yeah.
So this is a lot of volume. The big problem was the $77 range, right? We were bouncing off of that from 68 multiple times. It
Mm-hmm.
looks like we clearly broke out of that. I would have thought we would have hesitated at the 200 moving average, but we actually put up a hammer, which is pretty great. So
Yeah.
also an increased volume, not crazy. I don't think this jump from 68 to 81 in 2 weeks is like crazy sustainable. I
Yeah.
also will say I hate Chinese stock charts because of how often they're trading. There's just gaps everywhere. It's like not like a great flow.
Yeah.
It's just ugly. But I mean, I don't think you have to be a chart guy to be like, all right, we're out of that. So
Yeah,
I mean, it looks
that was
pretty
my fault as
obvious.
well. So I haven't actually closed my Alibaba covered call position yet, though. That's the scary thing for me. It's like it's at a slight loss. I want to say right now the options trading for about 350, and I think I sold it or opened it for like 50 or 60, so it'd be like a minus 300 on that position. Um, I do think I'm going to just take the loss and close it this week. And I have both the catalyst of earnings coming up, and now I want to see what Alibaba does now that it's broken out of that trend. Now, this was work done by a subscriber of ours, so thank you, because like this is amazing.
This is
But they actually
awesome.
went
I
through
can't believe someone did
all
this.
like the covered call transactions I had put out there from Alibaba, and kind of looked at it from a initial stock purchase at that price at the time that we started this, and brought it all the way through to like kind of current day as of when they did this. I have a couple like updates as far as options after this, but where I initially kind of was starting doing this around $120 a share for Alibaba, and these are all the individual transactions about my kind of revenue received or when I had to buy back the option. Also has like the ADR fees and dividends included on there. But it kind of shows you that despite Alibaba going from this $120 per share price down to like, let's say it was on $70 per share at this time. I basically was able to mitigate like half of my losses during that time period by using this covered call strategy. But the problem is now it looks like maybe we've had this double bottom event and we're going to be headed towards an uptrend. I am in kind of trouble where I have to now close out this position and then potentially not put it back on for a little while, depending on, looks like, as far as from a chart analysis standpoint. So this is my current Alibaba position on my main account. I only have 100 shares in that account. I've never gone full bore into Alibaba, like, despite what people think, it's like not a huge portion.
I have.
I do like it. I do think it's undervalued. I still have 100 shares here. I have another 40 shares in another account, but it's not like a huge position for me.
I have
And
almost
these are the
400.
options trades I've made since then. What's that?
I have almost 400.
Yeah. I know you're a little bit more committed to that. The most of the covered calls here, have been able to be bought back a significant, decrease in price value, or just fully let it expire. I try not to do that. Usually, I try to roll it rather than let it expire because, that weekend you basically don't get to have any data decay. But overall, I'm going to probably buy back this one at, like I said, a slight loss here, and then or a loss here, and then see where Alibaba stabilizes as far as share value price going forward.
So I do think we're going to get an update from Burry here. So he was in JD and Baba. He does not hold his stocks for a long time. This is a weekly chart, so it's actually up quite a bit more than this. But I believe he's in, I'll have to double check, but I believe he's in 24, 25 range, and they're already at 32. So that's already like a 28-ish percent. That's hard to do off the top of my head. Gain. I don't know if he's gonna stay in it from there, but I'm just throwing that out there. All right, guys.
Yeah, in like the
You're
next,
on mute.
yeah, we should have like one of the next 2 weeks or so, because the end of the March quarter, basically 45 days out from there, is when he files his.
Yeah. All right, guys. Let us know what you think.
Okay, so that's one.
Have a good one. Vinny's dogs are going crazy.
Yeah.